Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're here for another Monday mini-sode.
That's right. Our Monday mini episodes are where we get the opportunity to talk about something in a short amount of time, 10, 15 minutes, which given today's age is actually takes a lot of attention span, when we live in the days of TikTok. But we also have our longer form podcast, which is every Wednesday. It's on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can get it there. It's also on iTunes, anywhere you get a podcast, Spotify, all those places. And it's typically over an hour. And we're going to talk about a lot of things. We go into depth on stuff. But today we're talking about it's time to stop blaming eBay, right? Like I see it all the time. It's eBay. eBay did this. eBay's fault. eBay's wrong. eBay's messed up. And we try to be real on the podcast. There are times when eBay has its shortcomings and eBay is to blame for some things. But maybe it's not eBay. Maybe it's you.
The greatest excuse I always hear when sales are slow are the eBay's been doing some updates lately, and that's why sales haven't come through. I'm like, what? How do you know? Yeah. How do you know?
And I don't want to take that away from somebody. I mean, there are times when there's validity to it, right? Like somebody may have gotten some insight, or there may legitimately be like, hey, eBay's doing something. And so there are times when eBay is to blame, but it's not all the time.
Let us know in the comments. How do people know when eBay is doing updates? Like, do you have a family member that's in IT? Like, I just want to know. Like, is this just a line that people use to make themselves feel better? Right? So if it's not eBay, what is it? And I would say the first thing that you need to look at is, what are you sourcing? Are you actually sourcing items that are going to sell? Right? Have you been going, you know what? This is such a great deal. I don't care if the sell-through rate is low. I don't care if there's not a lot of profit. I don't care if it's not high in demand. I'm going to buy it because you know what? It's so cheap. And we can get into that trap. I've got into that trap. I recently listed a bunch of stuff and I was like, what? Why am I listing this? Like, I'm only going to make a few bucks on each of these. And the only reason I'm listing it is because I paid for it, but I didn't pay very much. And I would be better off spending my time listing the items that are worth good money than wasting my time on items that I can't say for sure. So take a look at where you're sourcing. Are you sourcing junk? Are you sourcing things that maybe 5 years ago? This is the thing you see all the time in eBay forums. You know, I've been selling, let's say media, right? I've been selling media for 5 years and, you know, sales aren't coming through and eBay's been throttling. And I so want to, say something like, yeah, you've been sourcing the same thing for 5 years and maybe people just don't want to buy that anymore. Right? Maybe that's something you need to consider.
Yep. That's good. Yeah. What are you sourcing? And then the other thing too is maybe you are sourcing things that are fine to source. Maybe you did get a good deal on something, even if it's a little bit slower moving, but how is your pricing, right? The hard part is you can easily get set and used to the set it and forget it. I found this item. It's got a decent, it tends to sell for $100. I'm going to list it for $99.99 and I'm going to post it, buy it now, and I'm going to leave it and I'm just going to let it sit. Well, if things have changed, maybe that item now is kind of trending at $80 instead of $100. Well, you're priced out. You are not going to sell those items. And so you can sit there and say, these items are sitting and I used to sell these all the time and eBay shadow banned me. And it could just be that you're not staying up. And it's hard. Like if you've got 100 items, 500 items, 1,000 items, 10,000 items, it's really tough to kind of keep track of those things. So we've talked in the past about it's a good idea potentially to pull your listings, which ones have been listed the longest without sells, and then just modify those. Like start at the very bottom and say, hey, these have been up for 6 months with very little activity. One of the first things you can check is my pricing right? So you don't have to research your entire store, but maybe research like 10 items every so often. Like, oh, it looks like my pricing is off on this. So adjust your pricing, be willing to take offers, all of those things.
Yeah, and I want to add to that, like, what are you offering along with the price, right? Are you offering an item, right, that they're able to return, right? That's the biggest thing, right? A lot of people get it all the time. And we'll get in the comments too, is you're like, I never offer returns. Well, then people are not going to buy with confidence with you, right? For me, whenever I'm looking up, you had mentioned this, Mike, when we were looking for equipment for the podcast, like unless we were able to return it, like we weren't going to buy it because there's always that concern that we buy something, especially if it's used, especially if it's electronic and it doesn't work. And if they have a no return policy, then we have to battle it. Then we have to go eBay money back guarantee and so on. But if you provide return, and I'm not saying free returns, you don't have to do free returns, even though free returns will give you a greater protection from eBay. Like if you offer returns, people are going to be more willing to buy from you. I just recently had a Hawaiian shirt that sold and somebody actually left me positive feedback. And the positive feedback was like, it was so great to be able to buy this shirt and it didn't work out, but at least I was able to return it and I'm grateful. And some people might say like, that's bad. Like people are going to see that on your feedback and now people are going to take advantage of you. And the reality is that's not the case. So are you offering that? Are you offering expedited shipping? Are you offering same day shipping? To me as a buyer, I can't stand it when I buy something and it takes 2-3 weeks for me to get there. Or I buy something on a Monday and they don't ship out till Thursday, right? Are you offering that shipping that when people want it, they're going to get it in a good amount of time?
That's good. That's good. Now our next one is so when are you selling? So we have what are you offering? We got when are you selling? So Orlando, clarify this for me? What are you thinking on this one?
So are you one of those people that are listing things? You're like, I'm just waiting for the right buyer, right? So you're like, you get a good offer and you're like, no, I want $5 more. You get another offer. You're like, no, not yet. And you're selling only when you get that right dollar amount. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, sure, that makes sense. I mean, you've got to be careful in the sense of you can't take an offer where you're going to lose money on something.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
You can if you're just trying to recoup some of your costs on an item that may have been a bad buy. But yeah, you could. There's limits, right? Like you can wait until the offer is right, but also you're right in the sense of you got to know what time it is. Like what's the hour in the sense of if things are rough right now, just in general, people are experiencing dips in their sales. Like now might be the time to take offers you wouldn't normally take. So are you willing to take that offer? Are you willing to sell even if it's not the ideal price? I mean, it still definitely can be worthwhile, beneficial to get things moving in your store. Now, we've even had discussions recently in our Discord of like, what is the algorithm? What impact the algorithm has? And honestly, nobody really knows. Like we only have anecdotal evidence on anything. And so, it's one of those things where we know the least about it, but yet we have the strongest opinions on it. And the reality is we don't know, but it does seem to be like there's some connections between activity in your store or items moving and other items moving. And so why that is, how that works, or if that's coincidence, we don't know. But I would be willing to bet that if things are moving in your store, I'm not like Orlando that says, hey, you take one offer, you're just going to get a whole bunch more flooded necessarily. But at the same time, I think in general, if you've got more things moving in your store, it's going to be beneficial for you for various reasons on eBay.
Yeah, agreed. Now, the last one here is the macro conditions. Right? Are you expecting the same thing that happened in 2020 when, even though, things were bad in 2020, people were stuck at home and they were buying online. And now, right, people are out and about, especially this summer right now, it's super hot. And in California, if you use your power from so-and-so time from 4 to 9 p.m. or whatever, your electricity bill goes way high. So a lot of people are like, I'm not going to spend time at home, right? They'll go to the beach, they'll go to the mall, they'll go to the movies, and they're not on their phones, right? Or, right now with inflation, people are like, I really want this item here, but the grocery bill is kind of high. Right. So it's just accepting the reality right now that maybe things aren't selling because of the macro. Now, I would say go to the macro after you've gone through all the things we just talked about. Right. If to me, there's always something. Right. There's always something. And, you've told this to me, Mike, and I agree with you. Like this summer, I'm working 3 times harder than I ever have as far as reselling to make the same amount of money. Right. So there's in the macro, are you actually not doing what is necessary to make the sales? Or are you not getting after it? Are you not listing consistently? Have you kind of like given up and you don't notice that you're giving up, right? And so look at the bigger overall picture, right? Is the economy slow or are you slow? Is that what's causing this slowdown in sales for you? I don't know if that made sense. Does that make sense?
That's good. It's good. Yeah.
All right. So hopefully, this wasn't too tough, but sometimes we do need that, that tough love approach of like, hey, you got to stop blaming the platforms and you need to focus on what you're doing and how to fix your systems to increase those sales. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling late.
Peace.